The drug dealer was tied to a bed for a year. His skin was festering and covered in sores. Not only does it smell disgusting, his right hand and tongue were cut off like mummies. What's even more shocking is that he's still alive. The police immediately called an ambulance and took him to the hospital. The doctor told the old policeman, "I've never seen such a patient before. The reason why I'm alive now, because the killer was injecting him with drugs every day. But we missed the best time to treat him. This man will not survive this night." The old detective knew this was the killer's way of provoking them, because the drug dealer had been caught by the police, but under the defense of a shady lawyer. He was granted a year of freedom, and the police were able to find the drug dealer again. Because before this, the killer had already killed the lawyer, and it's pretty brutal. He cut the lawyer's flesh and put it on a scale, no more, no less, exactly a pound, and drained the lawyer's blood. On the ground wrote a word "greed." The killer ended up leaving his only print at the scene, and these fingerprints from a drug dealer's severed right hand. Widely known, the killer did this. They're just trying to lead the police on a case, while mocking the incompetence of the police, proudly showing off his masterpiece to the crowd, because he was at a drug dealer's bedside. Also left a striking word: lazy. The old sheriff knew. These words correspond to the 7 deadly sins of Catholicism, the 2 evils of human nature. That's probably what motivated the killer. Among them are drug dealers who want to make a quick buck for nothing. This corresponds to laziness, one of the 7 sins. So the killer tied him to the bed for a year, to make up for the time he was about to spend in prison. And the lawyers taking dirty money to get drug dealers off the hook. Greed is one of the 7 sins. The killer cut off his flesh. It's a tribute to the Merchant of Venice, the story of the meat of the debt. If the theory is correct, there will be 5 more victims for the rest of the crime. Think of this, old criminal police with the way immediately act. But here's where they got stuck. The killer wasn't acting on a personal connection, because before these 2 cases, there was an even more gruesome killing, personal case. How does it feel to be fed to death? The police found the fat man died with his face in the rice bowl. His hands and feet were bound tightly with wire, except for the bruise on the back of his head. No other injuries were found on the body. The police took the victim to hospital to investigate the cause of death after the coroner's autopsy pulled out a stomach bigger than a basketball, the doctor told them. The victim's stomach and intestines were ruptured, visceral hemorrhage, combined with the bruise on his head. The police judged that the man had been threatened at gunpoint. She died after eating continuously for more than 12 hours. But the police don't know the killer's motive. Thought it was just a normal murder. Until a couple of days later, when 2 cases came up. To put them on alert, laziness and greed. This is appearing in the words in the other 2 victims' rooms. So the old detective came to the fat man's home again. This time he finally found a word for binge eating, because fat people have a life of indulgence and a messy appetite. Gluttony is his counterpart in the 7 deadly sins. This is followed together. A series of 7 deadly crimes, so he immediately went to the National Intelligence Center. Look up anyone associated with the Catholic Church and the 7 deadly sins. Sure enough, they quickly nailed their target. So the 2 went to the suspect's house. The door-to-door investigation is here. A mysterious man walked over from the hallway. The reaction dodged a bullet. See mysterious man escape away immediately caught up. He chases the mystery man out of the house, but unfortunately was Iron Bully suddenly knocked to the ground. Always struggled to get up. A gun was pointed at him. I thought I was gonna die this time. Be doomed. But the strange thing is that the mystery man put the gun back. By the time the old cop gets here, the man had disappeared, so the 2 men once again sneak into the mysterious man's home. They found the victim's severed right hand. This man is indeed the real murderer. As the crowd deliberated, a phone call came in. Away immediately picked up the phone. The mystery man's voice came over the phone. He told Away, because the police found him, so he had to speed up the time. But the police also found information in the killer's room. We've identified our next victim. To stop this from happening again, police rushed to the man's bar, came to a box. A huge gamut of words on the door panel came into view. There's a dead prostitute on the bed. The police are still late. The murderer forced the Johns with a gun, in a very perverted way. Stabbed the businesswoman to death. By the next day, another beautiful woman dead in her home. The killer left a word on his bed. Arrogance. The police found a woman with her nose cut off. He had a sleeping pill in one hand. The other hand holds the call phone. It's clear the killer is trying to disfigure him, or the choice between death. So the shameless woman chose the latter. Up to now, the killer has already done 5 murders. Just killed 2 more people. He can pull off the 7 deadly murders. But in the nick of time the killer shows up, turned himself in to the police. The criminal came to the police station with his arms outstretched. It's got the whole precinct freaking out. Interpol Away immediately took out a pistol aimed at him now. The criminal listened and obeyed. This submissive look, no one could believe it. He was a killer who killed 5 people in 6 days. The police immediately arrested the man. The killer, however, took it easy. The old detective can't figure it out. The criminal clearly committed murder according to the 7 deadly sins. Now there's jealousy and anger. 2 crimes were not completed. Why did he turn himself in? Sure enough, the killer's lawyer told the police he hid 2 more bodies. Need old Interpol and Away to people with him to identify the body, or he'll plead insanity. There is no way 2 people can only agree to the murderer's conditions. They're on their way to where the killer said they'd hide the body, all the way. The killer smiles and shows off his work. He said everyone he killed all died of their own sins. A fat man who lived a lazy life died of gluttony. A dirty lawyer who was hired by a criminal died of greed. A woman would rather die than be disfigured. He died of arrogance. The killer is still talking, introducing his work. It was not long before they reached their destination. Just then a van came from a distance. The old cop was worried it was an associate of the killer. Shots were fired to stop the car. But the driver said he was just being asked. The delivery has to be here by 7 o'clock. The old police officer carefully opened the express. The moment I opened the box, he stood up with great fear. Look back and see Away behind. He understood everything. Express Reasonable is the head of Away wife. Turns out they were all caught in the killer's path. Murderer. The purpose is to let Away be dominated by anger. Kill oneself. That's when the killer spoke. He said he was jealous that Away had a beautiful wife. So he ambushed Away's house, trying to take his wife for himself. But the wife fought back, so he cut off his wife's head. After hearing these, Away was instantly excited. At this point, Teddy is on the verge of collapse. But as a cop, he retained his last sanity, until the killer said it. Hearing the child's two-dimensional whole person confused, the killer laughed. Shing, you know there's nothing you can say now, right? Pain and anger interwoven in Away's heart. And this brute, and he's got this death-facing face. At last Away could not hide his anger. Multiple shots were fired and the animal was killed on the spot. At that, the killer died of jealousy under Away's gun. And Away was also arrested for killing people because of anger. The pain of a wife and child dying. The 7 murder cases that have shocked the world. The curtain has finally come down. This is the end of the film. If you like the explanation of AY, make sure you click like on it.